Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is lying in bed, wide awake at 2 in the morning, replaying a conversation they had 3 years ago. Somewhere, someone is sitting in their car in a parking lot, engine off, not ready to walk into a house that no longer feels like home. Somewhere, someone is staring at their phone, watching everyone else's life look perfect, wondering quietly, what is wrong with me? If any part of that sounded familiar, if you were exhausted from carrying something you can't put into words, stay with me for the next 45 minutes because 2,500 years ago, a man sat under a tree with the same restlessness you feel right now. Losses, fear, anger he couldn't explain, a mind that would not stop talking. And he found a way through it, not by escaping life, but by training his mind the way a warrior trains the body. Today I'm going to show you exactly how he did it, not as ancient theory sitting in a dusty book, but as 5 living stories and the real techniques hidden inside them that you can start using tonight. By the end of this video, you will understand why your mind creates so much suffering. And more importantly, you will know step by step how to train it so that no situation, no person, and no failure can shake you the way they used to. Let's begin. We are living in a strange time. Never in human history has a person had access to more comfort, and never has the human mind felt so overwhelmed. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already running. Bills, messages, a boss who doesn't appreciate you, a relationship that feels one-sided, a goal you haven't reached yet, while it feels like everyone else already has. Your ancestors feared tigers in the dark. You fear an unread message, a missed call, a comment under your photo. The mind hasn't changed, only what it fears has changed. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. It is not your circumstances that are breaking you. It is the untrained mind reacting to your circumstances that is breaking you. 2 people can lose the same job. One spirals into months of self-hate, the other treats it as a door closing so another can open. Same event, 2 completely different amounts of suffering. The difference between them is not luck, it is not personality, it is training. The Buddha called this training the taming of the mind, not suppressing it, not numbing it, taming it, the way you would gently, patiently train a wild horse until the very thing that used to throw you off now carries you exactly where you want to go. So, let's meet that wild horse. Let's understand exactly how it throws us. And then, story by story, let's learn how to tame it. There is an old teaching the Buddha gave to his students, and once you understand it, you will never experience pain the same way again. He asked them to imagine a man walking through the forest, and an arrow strikes him in the side. It's real, it's sharp, it hurts. That is the first arrow, and the first arrow is unavoidable. It is simply part of being alive. You will lose people, your body will age, someone will say something cruel to you, a plan you worked years for will collapse in a single afternoon. This is the first arrow, and no amount of meditation, no amount of positive thinking will ever make you immune to it. Life strikes everyone. But then the Buddha asked something different. What happens most of the time right after that first arrow hits? A second arrow comes, and this one we shoot ourselves. The second arrow is the story we tell about the pain. Why does this always happen to me? I'm cursed. I'll never recover from this. I'm not good enough. Everyone else has it figured out except me. The first arrow lasts a moment. The second arrow, the one made of your own thoughts, can last for years. Let me tell you about a young monk named Ananda, who came to the Buddha in deep grief. His closest friend had died suddenly, and Ananda could not stop weeping, not just from sadness, but from the endless thoughts attacking him. I should have visited him one more time. I should have said something different the last time we spoke. This is my fault. The Buddha sat beside him and said something Ananda never forgot. Your friend's death is the first arrow. It has already happened, and no thought of yours will undo it. But everything you are saying to yourself right now, the blame, the guilt, the endless replaying, that is the second arrow, and you are the one holding the bow. Ananda asked him, how do I put the bow down? And the Buddha gave him and gives us 3 steps that we still use today. Step 1. Name the arrow. The instant you feel a wave of suffering, pause and ask, is this the pain of what happened or the pain of the story I'm telling about what happened? Simply asking this question interrupts the automatic reaction. You cannot heal what you refuse to look at clearly. Step 2. Let the first arrow be felt fully without adding to it. Grief is allowed. Anger is allowed. Disappointment is allowed. The goal was never to become an emotionless stone. The goal is to feel the wave completely and let it pass through you the way weather passes through the sky, instead of gripping it and reliving it for the next 10 years. Step 3. Catch yourself before you fire the second arrow. The moment you hear your mind say, "This always happens to me," or "I'll never be okay again," recognize it. That is not truth. That is a second arrow loaded and aimed at your own heart. You do not have to release it. Ananda didn't stop grieving that day, but he stopped drowning. And within that difference between grieving and drowning lies almost everything this video is going to teach you. So, here is your first practice. And I want you to actually try this with me right now, wherever you're sitting. Think of a pain from your past that still visits you, and quietly in your mind ask, which part of this is the first arrow, and which part have I been refiring at myself over and over for months, maybe years? That awareness alone is the beginning of training the mind. There is a story about a highly educated professor who traveled a great distance to visit a Zen master seeking to learn about the nature of the mind. The moment he sat down before the master could even speak, the professor began explaining everything he already knew. Theories he had read, philosophies he had studied, arguments he was prepared to make. The master said nothing. He simply picked up a teapot and began to pour tea into the professor's cup. He poured and poured and poured, and the tea kept overflowing, spilling across the table, onto the professor's clothes, onto the floor. "Stop!" the professor shouted. "Can't you see the cup is full? It won't hold anymore." The master finally set the teapot down and looked at him calmly. "Exactly," he said. "You are like this cup, so full of your own opinions, your own certainty, your own conclusions that nothing new can enter. Come back to me when your cup is empty." Here is why this story matters so deeply for anyone struggling right now. Most suffering doesn't come from what's happening to us. It comes from a mind that is already full of assumptions about how things should be, full of old beliefs about who we are, full of certainty that we already understand a situation completely. A full mind cannot receive a new solution. A full mind cannot see an opportunity standing right in front of it. A full mind cannot even properly hear someone who loves us because it's too busy preparing its next defense. Think about the last argument you had with someone close to you. Were you actually listening, or were you simply waiting for your turn to defend your side? Think about the last time life didn't go your way. Did you ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Or did you immediately decide, "This is unfair, this shouldn't be happening," and slam the cup shut? We do this constantly. We walk around fully convinced. "I know how my partner feels about me. I know this job will never get better. I know I'm not the type of person who can change." And because the cup is full, we never test whether any of it is even true. How do you empty the cup? The practice is called beginner's mind. Every night for 1 week, choose one belief you are completely certain about yourself, about a person in your life, or about your situation, and simply ask, "What if I'm wrong about this?" Not because you definitely are, but because the question itself pours the cup empty enough for new water to enter. When criticism comes your way, instead of instantly defending, try silently asking, "Is there even 1% of truth in this that could help me grow?" A full cup says, "How dare they?" An empty cup says, "Let me look." When a plan fails, instead of deciding, "I always fail," ask, What is this situation actually trying to show me? A full cup sees an ending. An empty cup sees information. The Buddha himself described enlightenment not as gaining something new, but as removing what was blocking clarity that was already there. Like clouds moving away from a sun that never stopped shining, you don't need to become someone new. You need to stop being so full of who you already decided you are. So here's your second practice. Today, notice one moment where you say the words, "I already know," about a person, a situation, or yourself, and gently ask if that cup could use a little emptying. Let's continue. There was once an old farmer who lived in a small village with his son. One morning, his only horse broke through the fence and ran off into the hills. The neighbors gathered, shaking their heads. "Such terrible luck," they said. "Your only horse gone. What will you do?" The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returned and brought with it 3 wild horses that had followed it home. Now, the farmer had 4 horses. The neighbors came rushing back, amazed. "What incredible luck!" The farmer replied again simply, "Maybe." Not long after, the farmer's son tried to tame one of the wild horses. He was thrown off and broke his leg badly. The neighbors came again. "Such terrible luck, your only son, injured?" The farmer said, "Maybe." Weeks later, the emperor's army came through the village, taking every able-bodied young man to fight in a brutal war from which few would return. Because the son's leg was broken, he was passed over, left safely at home. The neighbors said, "What extraordinary luck." And the farmer once again simply said, "Maybe." I want you to really sit with this story, because it dismantles something almost all of us do without noticing. We rush to label every event in our life as either a disaster or a blessing, often within seconds of it happening, long before we can know its full meaning. The breakup you're grieving right now, maybe it's protecting you from 10 more years with the wrong person. The promotion you didn't get, maybe it's redirecting you toward work that will actually fulfill you. The friendship that ended, maybe it made space for someone far more aligned with who you're becoming. This is not blind optimism. The Buddha never taught blind optimism. This is something deeper. It's called non-attachment to outcome, and it is one of the most freeing skills a mind can ever learn. Here's the deeper teaching underneath the farmer's story. Suffering multiplies whenever we insist that we already know the final meaning of something that is still unfolding. Life is not a single scene. It is a long river. Judging one bend in the river as the whole story is where so much unnecessary pain comes from. The practice from this chapter is simple, but life-changing if you actually use it. The next time something goes wrong, really wrong, instead of immediately deciding my life is ruined, try borrowing the farmer's one word. Say it quietly to yourself. Maybe. Maybe this is closing the door I needed closed. Maybe this is protecting me from something I can't see yet. Maybe I don't have enough information to know what this really means. You are not forcing fake positivity. You are simply refusing to hand your peace of mind over to a story that hasn't finished being written yet. This single word, maybe, held countless practitioners together through illness, loss, and failure because it kept a door open that panic tries desperately to slam shut. Keep that door open. You don't know how this chapter ends yet. Neither did the farmer. 2 traveling monks, an older monk and a younger monk, were walking together toward their monastery when they reached the edge of a river swollen from recent rain. Standing at the bank was a young woman in a fine silk dress, clearly distressed, afraid the current would ruin her clothing and sweep her off her feet if she tried to cross alone. Without a single word, The older monk walked over, lifted her onto his back, carried her safely across the river, set her down gently on the other side, and continued walking. The younger monk was silent, but his mind was racing. Their order had strict vows. Monks were not permitted to touch women, not even to speak to them alone. He walked for hours in silence, his irritation building with every step. Finally, as the sun began to set, he could not hold it in any longer. "How could you carry that woman?" he burst out. "You know our vows. You touched her. You broke our training." The older monk turned to him calmly and said, "I set that woman down by the riverbank hours ago. You, my friend, you are still carrying her. Let that land for a moment. One person walking freely down a road, another walking the same road but visibly hunched under an invisible heavy weight. Or this might be the most important story in this entire video, because it exposes something almost every one of us is doing right now in this very moment. Without even realizing it, the argument from 6 months ago that you keep replaying in the shower, the mistake you made at 19 that still shapes how you see yourself at 35. The person who wronged you years ago whom you have not spoken to since, and yet you speak to them constantly in your head, rehearsing what you should have said. The event itself ended long ago, but the mind refuses to set it down. And a mind that will not put things down cannot open its hands to receive anything new, peace, love, opportunity, joy. Your hands are already full. Here's what makes this teaching so practical. The Buddha wasn't saying, never feel angry, never feel hurt. The older monk didn't refuse to help the woman out of fear. He acted fully in the moment, and then released it completely once the moment had passed. That is the entire skill. Full presence, followed by full release. How do you actually practice putting it down? Try this tonight. Sit quietly and make a short, honest list in your mind or on paper of 2 or 3 things you are still carrying: a grudge, a regret, a version of yourself you haven't forgiven yet. For each one, ask, is holding on to this still protecting me, Utka, or is it only exhausting me? If the river crossing ended long ago, but you're still carrying the weight of it, ask yourself the question the older monk would ask. Why am I still carrying this by the side of the road? You do not need the other person's apology to put it down. You do not need the situation to be fair to put it down. You only need to notice your own hands and choose right now in this moment to open them. This is not weakness. This is not letting people walk over you. This is recognizing that carrying resentment for years doesn't punish the person who hurt you. It only exhausts the ones still carrying it. You set it down by the river. Keep walking. Before he was called the Buddha, the awakened one, he was simply a man named Siddhartha, sitting alone beneath a tree, having vowed not to move until he understood the truth about suffering. And on the final night before his awakening, the old stories say a figure named Mara approached him. Mara is sometimes described as a demon, sometimes as a god. But in truth, Mara represents something every single one of us knows intimately: the force inside the mind that tries to pull us away from our own growth. Mara did not attack Siddhartha with monsters and violence, though the old texts describe that too. Mara's real weapon was far more familiar. Mara sent doubt. Who do you think you are, to seek enlightenment? You are no one special. Mara sent fear. Mara sent temptation, offering comfort, pleasure, an easy way out of the hard work of sitting still with his own mind. Mara sent memories of old failures, whispering that he would fail this time too. Sound familiar? This is exactly what happens to you the moment you decide to change your life. The moment you decide to leave a relationship that's hurting you. Apply for the job you feel unqualified for, forgive someone, start over, or simply try to have one peaceful day. A voice rises up inside your own head. Who do you think you are? You'll fail like last time. It's easier to just stay where you are. You don't have what it takes. That voice is your own Mara. And here is the single most important detail in this entire story. Siddhartha did not fight Mara. He did not scream back or run away or pretend Mara wasn't there. He simply looked at Mara, acknowledged him and said calmly, "I see you, Mara." And then he touched the earth with his hand, a gesture that in the old teaching meant he was calling the ground itself, reality itself, as his witness, that he would not be moved. Mara's army could not touch him, not because Siddhartha overpowered it with force, but because he stopped fighting it and stopped fleeing it, and simply refused to be moved by it. This is, perhaps, the deepest secret of training the mind, and I want you to remember it long after this video ends. You are not meant to destroy your fear, your doubt, or your inner critic. You are meant to recognize it, name it, and refuse to let it move you off your seat. The next time that voice rises, Muhai, telling you that you're not ready, not good enough, not capable. You do not need to silence it forcefully, and you do not need to obey it. You can simply say quietly and firmly the same words Siddhartha said, "I see you, and I am not moving." By morning, Mara was gone. Not because Siddhartha defeated an external enemy, but because a mind that is fully present, fully aware, and refuses to run, cannot be shaken by shadows. Fear only has power over a mind that is asleep to its own tricks. The moment you truly see it, most of its power disappears. Let's bring everything together, because knowing these stories means nothing if they don't become something you actually live. Here is a simple framework. 5 minutes a day is enough to begin, built from everything we've walked through together. First, each morning, before you touch your phone, take 3 slow breaths and ask yourself one question. What am I carrying into today that doesn't belong to today? This is putting down the river crossing before you even start walking. Second, throughout your day, whenever pain shows up, pause and ask, is this the first arrow, or am I firing a second one at myself? This one question alone will save you hundreds of hours of unnecessary suffering over the course of your life. Third, whenever you catch yourself completely certain about how something will turn out, good or bad, gently add the farmer's word, maybe. Keep the door open. You don't have the full story yet. You never do, not while you're still living it. Fourth, before reacting to criticism, conflict, or a difficult conversation, silently check your cup. Are you actually listening or already full, already defending? Empty the cup, even for 30 seconds. It changes everything. Fifth and finally, when fear or self-doubt rises before you do something brave, starting over, speaking your truth, trying again after failure, simply acknowledge it. I see you. And then take the step anyway. You were never meant to feel zero fear. You were only ever meant to stop letting fear drive. None of this requires a monastery. None of this requires giving up your job, your family, or your life exactly as it is. The Buddha did not teach these things only to monks sitting in silence on a mountaintop. He taught them to farmers, to grieving mothers, to kings, to beggars, to people exactly like you, living exactly the complicated, noisy, modern life you're living right now. The mind that keeps you awake at night is the very same mind that, trained patiently, day after day, can become the steadiest, calmest, most trustworthy part of who you are. The same person from the opening scene, the one lying awake at 2 a.m., is now shown peacefully asleep, breathing calmly. You are not broken. You were simply never taught how to hold your own mind. And now you have 5 tools you didn't have 45 minutes ago. Every arrow that has ever struck you, every loss, every failure, every sleepless night was real. I am not telling you it didn't hurt. I am telling you that you have the power starting today to decide whether you fire a second arrow at yourself or finally gently set the bow down. You have the power to empty your cup and let a new answer in, to say, maybe instead of "my life is over," to put down what you've been carrying since a riverbank you crossed years ago, and to look your own fear directly in the eye and say, "I see you and I am not moving." This is what it means to train the mind, not to become someone who feels nothing, but to become someone who can feel everything and remain standing. If this video brought you even a little peace tonight, that peace was already inside you. This was simply a reminder of how to find it again. Subscribe if you want more stories like this one. Every week we bring ancient wisdom to modern struggles, so that whatever you're carrying right now, you never have to carry it alone. And before you go, tell me in the comments which of these 5 stories spoke to you the most tonight. I read every single one. Until next time, walk gently, breathe fully, and remember, you are always stronger than the storm in your own mind.